Hello, internship class. It's Steve. I hope that you had a great weekend. We are heading into week number 3, and our major learning event for week number 3 is going to be your first reflection journal. So I thought it would be helpful to do this quick guide for you as to how you can ace your first internship reflection journal. So I've been teaching this course for a while now, and I tried to identify some of the ways that students tend to lose points on their reflection journal. So first and foremost, always proofread your journal before submitting it. I can't tell you how often students end up losing silly or mindless points simply because of a spelling or a grammatical mistake. So use Grammarly, use spell check. What I found helpful in college was to read my papers out loud, and that really helped me to identify any grammatical or spelling mistakes. And be sure to cite any sources using the APA guidelines, the APA format. If you're not sure where to find the APA citation guide, please let me know that and I can direct you to that link. Always want to follow the rubric and guidelines for all of the grading events for this course. So there is a rubric and guideline that I'll touch on briefly in a second that you'll find under the week number 3 learning module as well. You want to try in this first reflection journal, we are looking at the theory to practice connection again. So if you recall from last week's discussion, we were asking you to try to make some connections or to apply some of the academic concepts that you have been learning in your field of study to the functions and responsibilities that you're performing in your internship. The same holds true for this week number 3 reflection journal. So you want to kind of be thinking about the experience, and that's going to be the intellectual side of your internship, the cognitive side, as they say in psychology. And you also want to be considering the feeling aspect of your internship, which is more on the human side. So if you approach this reflection journal from those two dimensions and you look back at the concept that you focused on for your week number 2 discussion, you should be in good shape in terms of getting off to a strong start with this journal. And by the way, you can use the same concept and principle that you discussed, concept, principle, or theory that you discussed in your week number 2 discussion, but make sure it is a concept, principle, or theory, something that you studied in a particular class within your program of study. And let me know the course where you learned about that concept. We don't just simply learn things out of thin air. We have resources that we've used to learn something. So share with me the course or the resources that where have you learned about this concept, in other words, is what I'm trying to say here. So if I'm saying that I'm going to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy and how that's applying to my internship, I might say that I learned a lot about that in my adult psychopathology class or whatever class it might be. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be a course. It can be an experience that you had that also helped you to learn about the concept or theory. But we really do want to try to have it be an academic related course or experience where you learned about that concept. So please be sure when you're communicating your reflection journal that you are in fact mentioning where you learned about that concept. The critical thinking piece is very important with reflection journals because you probably have noticed in this class, I'm going to be asking you questions in your discussions, and we want you to think deeply about your internship experience. We don't want to just be scratching the surface. So the critical thinking piece is important in that we want to put those higher level thinking skills to work. So we want to, if I say something such as, I learned about X, Y, and Z, well, just saying I learned about it is great, but how did I learn about it? What was it about the learning that really excited me? What specifically did I learn about that concept, and what was the experience tied to it? So again, do your best to go beyond the surface and really try to think meaningfully about your internship experience. And speaking of meaning, you want to have breadth, depth, and substance to your reflection journal. So the breadth is going to be the widening, I guess. You want to maybe be talking about a number of different topics, even though you're going to be focusing specifically on one or two concepts or principles, academic concepts or principles from your field of study. You do want to, you're probably going to be bringing up some other subjects that kind of relate to it and such. That's perfectly fine. You want to dig deep again and have some depth with the reflection journal. And you don't have to go real deep, but again, I want to know that you're pushing yourself a little bit to learn about the concept, and to really think about how the concept is playing out in your internship, the concept or theory. And then finally, substance. Substance is where I'm expanding upon my dialogue. So like the example I used earlier, I want to not just say that I'm learning something, but how am I learning it, and why does it matter, and how is it relevant to my future? And go beyond last week's discussion forum. You don't want to just copy and paste your discussion number 2 and use that as a reflection journal. That is actually something called self-plagiarism, believe it or not. You can certainly take content from your first discussion, but you don't want to be using it word for word rather. You want to, your reflection journal is going to be, again, going a little bit deeper than your discussion for week number 2. And here's the guidelines and rubric for the reflection journal. Again, you'll find this document under our week number 3 learning module. So you want to make sure that you're addressing all of the writing prompts. And then you see how when I'm reviewing a reflection journal, the elements that I'm going to be looking at, the critical thinking, how you're integrating and applying the information. Are you using an authentic voice? And what we mean by that is, are you speaking from the heart when you're talking about your experience? Is your writing polished? Are you connecting your ideas well? Does it flow well? Those kinds of things. So be sure to use this rubric and guidelines as you're putting together your reflection journal. And then finally, just a reminder that the deadline for submitting your reflection journal is going to be next Sunday, May 23rd at 11:59 p.m. your time. So those of you that might be on the West Coast, you've got a little bit more time. All right. So hope this is helpful to you. Sorry it was a little bit long-winded. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at s.young7@snhu.edu. Thank you so much.